Hey guys! Here is video number 2 for the day. This is a follow-up on African violet full water culture and African violet yarn culture. I made up the name, but you'll see what I mean. If you haven't seen the other videos, you will know what I'm talking about when I show you. I'll show you right now. The first African violet we are going to show you now is the one that has been blooming profusely. I don't know why, but I'm not going to question it. This has been blooming for a while. I haven't taken off any of the dead or dying flowers yet. I tried pollinating. I don't know if the pollen was any good. It was extremely old. I know the pollen needs to be older than the female part of the flower that you're going to be pollinating, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to leave them on, see if I get any seed pods. This African violet I had put into water culture. It had root rot. So I chopped off all the roots. It just had a stem, pretty much. And the roots started to grow, but they didn't grow like they normally do. I don't know exactly what happened, but they were growing very thick but short. So it kept drying out too quickly. The end of those new roots kept drying up. I felt really bad. So I love yarn. So I decided to wrap those new growing roots in yarn and use a little piece of yarn as a wick. And let me tell you, it worked wonders. This plant has been like this for, I don't know, a month, maybe 2. I don't even know. But this plant has done extremely well with this yarn wrap. Yeah. So I just want to show you guys. Outer leaves, older leaves, doing fine. Still firm, hydrated, no problem there. The crown is doing fantastic. Got a lot of new leaves coming up. And this is under the grow light, pretty close. So all the leaves have a really nice, deep, rich green color. And I'll probably end up cutting these off if I see that there isn't any seed pod. I'm hoping for a seed pod. Cross your fingers, everybody. But yeah, so this has been in the yarn for a while, and it's doing very well. I do give a probably quarter strength fertilizer, standard fertilizer for hydroponics, to this lovely lady here, and she's doing really well. So I don't know, we'll see if she gets a new spike. She had one here that just kind of fizzled out. I'll probably end up removing that, but for now, A, I want to see if I get some seed pods, and B, we'll see if we get some more spikes. But yeah, this is the yarn culture African violet. Beauty. Okay, next up we have one of the older African violets that's been in water culture. This one I just put in water culture for no apparent reason. Having like 300 to 400 plants and having to water all of them, especially African violets, you can't really let them dry out too much. Otherwise they'll wilt, their roots will die, and then it takes them some time to get some new roots, and the plant suffers and you risk losing the plant. So I started to transfer more and more of the violets over to water culture, and this one always had like that limey green, almost yellowish outer leaves on the older leaves, but you can see now that I've got some nice bright rich green crown growing. And look at those roots. Fresh new roots everywhere. Fantastic. Doing very, very well in water culture. When this one blooms, because I know it's gonna, I just have to put it under the light, closer to the light in the grow space to get some blooms. I may do that soon. It has lots of roots. I just don't want to have it expend too much energy until it gets some healthier leaves. But so far so good. Doing really, really well. Again, same sort of feed situation with this guy. I give about a quarter strength hydroponic fertilizer, and it seems to be doing extremely well. So there you have it. Next up, we have the African violet that had root rot and crown rot. So I ended up chopping off all the roots because they were mushy and brown, and it had no crown in the middle because it had been watered from the top. When I had gotten it, somebody gave it to me and said, I need your help, you got to rescue this plant. I said, okay, give it to me. So we chopped off the roots. I kind of peeled a lot of the bark off of that stem, and I cleaned out where the crown was because I knew a new crown would sprout. Where it would sprout from is anybody's guess until it sprouts, but you know it's going to be sprouting from above one of the leaves. So what ended up happening is, look at those roots. Fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful roots, water roots. You can see where the stem ended after I cut all the roots off and where all the roots are growing from. And the new crown is doing extremely well. Last time you guys saw this, it was much smaller. And it's growing out of above this leaf. I don't know if you could see it in there. I don't know if I was holding that too high. It's growing right above, actually, these two leaves. Probably this one is more like it, if you can see. Anyway, doing very, very well. The color of the leaves is very, very healthy green. These older leaves, you can see what they looked like. Poor thing. I didn't remove the older leaves because I wanted this to be able to get as much nourishment as it could while it's growing new roots and growing a new crown. Eventually I'll end up cutting these guys off, but it's definitely a reminder of where this plant has come from when I now see that beautiful crown growing. So yeah, this is the root and crown rot baby. And last up we have an African violet that I transferred to water culture that had severe cold damage. Now, this looks like water damage, right? I mean, a lot of the scars you get from water damage look kind of similar to this, but this one was exposed to near freezing temperatures. It was probably like low 40s in its travels. It was leaving one area, going to another. It wasn't insulated very well. It wasn't mailed. It was just coming from the old grow space to the new grow space and just done very poorly. So the plant suffered horribly. So what I ended up doing is I said, all right, again, I'm leaving all those leaves on just so that it can photosynthesize as much as possible to make some food while you're growing new roots and growing a better crown. And you can see the crown is coming up nicely, beautiful, healthy crown, and didn't have root rot, so I left the majority of the roots, the old roots, and you can see off of the old roots are the clear/white water roots. That's another way that you know if the roots are good. Once you have them in water for a while in water culture, if they start to branch out in clear fashion like this, you know that those roots are alive, and they're now creating the water roots necessary to absorb the moisture for this plant. This leaf needs to go, as you can see. Let me pull that off. There we go. I'm not going to remove these damaged leaves yet because they're still firm. They're still photosynthesizing to some degree. And until that crown gets any bigger, I'm not going to remove these outer leaves. But once it does, obviously I can get rid of them. Clean this baby up. But yeah, roots are doing very well. I don't have this directly under the light, so it's not going to bloom. I don't want it to bloom right now. But once that crown gets nice and healthy and the leaves get really big and the roots continue the way that they're going, I will then put it right under the grow light to get some beautiful flowers, and you'll see the color of the flowers. I already know what it is because it's written on the side, but I'm not going to tell you. Anyway, yeah, so that is another water culture violet. I love water culture. It's fantastic. Oh, and one last one. I'll just show you right here. This is a recent placement into water culture. This is a mini violet, mini African violet, semi-double purple, and has not grown any new roots yet. These are the old soil roots, but they obviously were not rotted out, so I left them on. Some of them will rot being in water culture, but the ones that are alive and survive will then branch out with the water roots. So the crown is looking good. The leaves aren't too wilted because they always, this one here is wilted, you can see. Oh, actually because it had broken. Let me pull that off. All right. This one's no good for propagation. It's just too limp. But yeah, this one's doing okay. It's getting through. I'm putting this directly under the light so it can make as much food as possible while it's getting the new roots. The crown is still growing. It's not as firm and supple as I'd like it to be, but it is hanging in there. So this one will do fine. Just got to get over that hump and get some roots. Anyway, those are some of, not all of, my watercolor African violets. I have probably about 20, 30 watercolor violets. The majority of them are in the other grow space and they're not here with me, but I could always bring some over or shoot a video in that space so you can see what they look like. But if you have any questions on watercolor, on any of the methods that you saw me explain in this video, leave a comment in the section below and I will definitely get back to you. If you have any questions about any of the materials that I use, like these handy dandy little mini wine pitchers, they are fantastic for anything that has a crown based plant, not like a stalk, anything that grows out of a crown, pancake flat plant like this, or you could just use a cup, but I tend to like these mini wine pitchers. They hold the plant up exactly where it needs to be and suspends it, and the roots are the only thing that's sitting in the solution in the water. So yeah, anyway, let me know if you have any questions and I will keep you updated on how these children do. And yeah, we'll get some flowers eventually once these crowns start to grow and get to a nice size and the roots are in a good place, or at least a better place because they're pretty good now. I'll then put them directly under the light to get some blooms. Again, all of the fertilizer is quarter strength once I have new roots. And as an example, for this mini violet, there aren't any new roots, and because of that I'm not going to give it any feed because it's going to shock this plant. It's already a shock that these soil roots are in water. So until it starts to sprout some water roots, I will not give it any feed. And when it does, I will then give it quarter strength. Someone was asking me this relatively recently as far as flushing the reservoir for these guys. I flush probably every 2 weeks, I'd say. And sometimes there's some algae that grows. Let me see, like in this one here, you can see there's some algae growing on the bottom. That doesn't bother me. I don't mind. People say, oh, it competes, it eats up the nutrients. Let me tell you something. Some of the best thriving plants that I have in watercolor have algae inside. I don't know if it's some sort of a symbiotic relationship. I don't know if the algae is just a sign that the water quality is very good. But the plants that I have in watercolor that also have algae do extremely well. So a little bit of algae doesn't bother me. I keep it going. So I'm not going to scrub it out. I do flush it out, though, to make sure that I don't get any mineral deposits of whatever the plant can't absorb. But yeah, I'd say every 2 to 3 weeks. Let's not get crazy. I'm not like a fanatic. Anyway, if you have any questions, again, leave them in the comments. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, it'd be great if you did. You'd get to see the updates and any new experiments that I do because I love experimenting with plants. If you want to know more about lava rock, which is probably my favorite medium, stick around because there's plenty of videos on that. And like, share, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next video.